Welcome back. Today, we're diving deep into all the infantry units in Conflict of Nations. We'll explore the strengths and weaknesses of each unit, how to effectively use them in different terrains, how to build them, the purpose of them, and lastly, to see what infantry units we should build. Let's start with motorized infantry. The main purpose of motorized infantry is simply to defend your own lands and conquer enemy territory. Motorized infantry shine in defense, thanks to their defense bonuses, and they're excellent for capturing and holding territory as we. A standout feature of motorized infantry is their ability to attack from a distance without direct engagement, once upgraded to level 6. Another unique standout feature of motorized infantry, which not many other units have, is that they unlock airlift capability right from the start. As for terrains, make sure to use motorized infantry in forests, cities, and suburbs to make the most of their 25% defense bonus. But avoid using motorized infantry in jungles, mountains, and tundra, as their effectiveness drops by 25% in these environments. To deploy motorized infantry, all you need is a city with a level 1 army base. I highly recommend building motorized infantry. Now, let's shift our focus to mechanized infantry. Let's dive into mechanized infantry. Mechanized infantry supports armor. It thrives in easily navigable terrains and is particularly effective when paired with armored units. The primary role of mechanized infantry is similar to that of motorized infantry, but with a focus on working alongside tanks, as it gets a bonus when paired with tanks. This combination of mechanized infantry and tanks form a powerful force capable of capturing, defending, and attacking territories with improved effectiveness. For terrain, your go-to should be open grounds, tundra, and desert, where mechanized infantry benefits from both defense and attack bonuses, along with enhanced sight range in mountainous areas. However, with mechanized infantry you should avoid mountains, forests, and jungles, as their performance significantly drops in these terrains due to reduced attack and defense capabilities. To make mechanized infantry, you'll need a city equipped with a level 2 army base and a level 1 recruiting office. Despite the unit's strengths, I do not recommend building mechanized infantry. Now, let's shift our attention to naval infantry. Naval infantry are like the heavy hitters of amphibious operations, akin to Marines, skilled in launching assaults directly from the sea onto any coastal province. Their strength in attacking fortified urban areas makes them a formidable force, especially in urban combat and capturing port cities. Despite their lower mobility and struggle in challenging terrains, naval infantry's unique advantage lies in their ability to embark and disembark from any coastline, bypassing the need for harbors or pontoons. Naval excel in amphibious landings and urban warfare, capable of striking strategic targets like provinces and cities with efficiency. They're also durable in defense, able to withstand enemy counterattacks, and can be upgraded for some resistance against missile attacks. The primary mission of naval infantry is simply to conquer tactical areas. For example, if you want to attack Canada but you notice that Canada's homeland cities are very well defended, then you can use the naval infantry to capture other provinces and move in and then deteriorate his army and country. As for the terrains, you should deploy naval infantry in cities and suburbs since they get attack and defense bonuses here, and make sure to avoid mountains, jungle, and tundra territories as these terrains diminish their combat effectiveness. To build naval infantry, your city must have both a level 2 army base and naval base, plus a level 1 recruiting office. Although naval infantry brings several advantages to the table, I'd advise not building naval infantry and considering other units. Airborne Infantry are a light unit, supported by transport helicopters, intended for rapid intervention. They are especially effective in being able to flank deep behind enemy lines by using the air assault ability. On foot, they are extremely slow, however their air assault capabilities allow them to cover great distances and difficult terrain in record times. Airborne infantry are very dependent on their helicopters, leaving them vulnerable to air force and anti-air, so make sure to keep airborne infantry away from these type of units. The main purpose of airborne infantry is to be able to quickly assault cities and capture cities, and also arrive quickly where help is needed. As for the terrains, you should use airborne infantry in cities and suburbs, where you will get extra defense damage. However, you should avoid using them in forests, jungle, and tundra terrains as they will deal less damage in these kind of provinces. To build airborne infantry, you need a city with an air base level 2, a recruiting office level 1, and an army base level 1. I personally do not suggest you to build airborne infantry. Sweet, let's now talk about special forces. Special forces infantry are specifically trained in rugged terrain and in counterinsurgency missions. These elite warriors are always first on the ground and will not wait to occupy territory, instead moving on to their next kill. In terms of damage, special forces have the highest hit points attributed to an infantry unit due to their efficiency and stealth. They are absolutely invisible if they are not fighting, and being stealthy themselves, they have the capacity to reveal other stealthy units. Special forces won't be affected by bunkers or any defensive building. Only weapons of mass destruction can slow special forces slightly, and even then, they're somewhat protected. Their versatility allows for global redeployment via airlift. At Tier 2, they gain amphibious warfare training, enabling harborless embarkation and disembarkation too, like Marines. Special forces combine key features from other infantry types upon research. They contain air assault capabilities, the ability to move stealthily through enemy lines, the ability to embark and disembark anywhere, and revealing detailed enemy unit compositions within sight range. However, their significant advantages come with two drawbacks: the high cost and the inability to capture territory directly, meaning you'll need additional infantry type to take control of cities or provinces. The main purpose of special forces is that they are great units at destroying strategic targets. For example, with special forces you can get into enemy territory without being detected and search for strategic vulnerable targets, such as anti-air or multiple rocket launcher stacks, and then destroy them. And on top of that, you have all the different abilities that were mentioned before, for example, being able to disembark and embark anywhere. As for the terrains, you should prioritize using special forces in mountains, forests, and jungle terrains, because in these terrains you will deal an extra 50% of damage and an extra 25% of defense. As for special forces, there are no territories that will nerf or reduce their attack damage or defense damage, so you can use these special forces anywhere without any consequence. To deploy special forces, you need a city with a level 3 army base, a level 1 air base, and a level 1 recruiting office. I personally do suggest building this unit, but only after a certain amount of time and with a special strategy which you will learn later in the video. Awesome, let's now talk about National Guards. The National Guard unit are your go-to unit for quick mobilization. Given their long travel time and subpar combat properties, they should utilize airlift and be used for defensive missions. National Guards also get produced very quickly, making them suitable for emergency defensive needs. National Guard hit points depend on the morale of the mobilizing city, and the lower the morale of the city, the lower the health points of the National Guard when produced. You will mainly want to consider this infantry for fast dispatch defense scenarios of your homeland provinces and not for attack scenarios. So as a rule of thumb, only use National Guards if you are being attacked by 2 or more countries before day 8. Additionally, I suggest stacking these units as their combat properties are low compared to better equipped infantry. The trade-off with National Guard are their lack of need for any army base. Note that they do require a recruitment office, however. Further upgrades in National Guards will make them resilient to chemical warfare and provide more well-rounded stats across the board. The main purpose of National Guards is to defend your homeland in an early invasion. The reason for why National Guards are good in these type of scenarios is that you can produce National Guards insanely quick at a cheap cost. As for the terrains, you should use National Guards in open ground, forests, cities, and suburbs, as in these terrains they get a defense damage boost. And just like special forces, there are no territories that will nerf or reduce National Guard's attack damage or defense damage, so you can use these units anywhere without worrying. The requirements to build National Guards are simply just a city with a level 1 recruiting office. I personally do recommend you build National Guards, but only if you are being attacked by 2 or more nations before day 8. If not, then don't bother wasting your research on National Guards. Let's now delve into Mercenaries, a new recent unit created by Conflict of Nations. The mercenary unit offers a viable alternative for rapid troop deployment, whether you need to amass forces quickly or launch an assault on an enemy fortress. They can be swiftly raised in various provinces, and despite their high maintenance costs, they serve as a strategic option for surprising the enemy or mounting a swift counteroffensive to reclaim your territory. Upgrading these units enhances their effectiveness in urban warfare and increases their survivability. They are very cheap and unique units too. It is important to note that they can't conquer land neither like special forces. A unique feature of mercenaries is that they only require manpower and money to construct. There is no need for supplies or components to build them. Additionally, another unique feature about mercenaries which no other unit has is that you can build them in provinces and not in cities. The main purpose of mercenaries is simply to be able to reinforce your stacks and deal damage one-on-one against an enemy, and also to counterattack. Think of them as the opposite of infantry. As for the terrains, mercenaries do the same damage in every type of terrain except for open fields and deserts, where they lose a 25% of defense damage. To build mercenaries, you simply need a province with a mercenary outpost built. Despite mercenaries' unique features, I do not recommend building them because they can't conquer land and their only real use is to fight and deal attack damage, since they barely do any defense damage. And it is a bad idea to fight with infantry units as they deal less damage and take more damage. You should be fighting with planes, helicopters, artillery, or ships, not one-on-one combat by tanks or infantry. For this reason, I do not suggest building mercenaries in general. Sweet, let's now discuss the Ultimate Infantry Task Force and its strategies. When it comes to managing your infantry units, the strategy is pretty straightforward for the early to mid-game, and that strategy is to stick mainly with infantry, unless you're facing attacks from 2 or more nations early on. In such cases, National Guards become your go-to for bolstering defense. Keep this approach until around day 40, at which point mobilizing and upgrading special forces becomes viable, especially for neutralizing specific threats like MRLs, multiple rocket launchers, and SAMs, surface-to-air missiles. No other unit of infantry is required. Instead, build other units such as multiple rocket launchers, SAM launchers, etc. Here are some exceptions where you should build another infantry unit if it comes down to it. 1. If in the scenario of you being a main tank player, then mechanized infantry may be suitable for you, since mechanized infantry can offer a slight boost in damage, but it's not a must. Essentially, the backbone of your strategy should revolve around infantry, National Guards, and special forces, as these units cover most needs. 2. If in the case scenario where your infantry numbers and resource numbers are low, and you're rich in manpower, then consider hiring mercenaries. In this scenario, mercenaries are perfect for supplementing your forces, since if you want to expand quicker and get more victory points, you can use these units to remain in your recently conquered cities to fight insurgents, instead of leaving infantry there, which then leaves the infantry to be able to press forward and claim new lands more efficiently. Awesome, that's it for the scenarios. I will also give you another tips, and that is to make sure that your infantry is utilized for conquering and defending territory. I don't recommend assembling them into attack-focused groups, since their strength lies in defense and territory acquisition. However, if you're aiming to use infantry for taking over areas, pairing them with SAMs, MRLs, and radars can create a powerful and versatile task force. Just ensure your infantry are covered by anti-air units to prevent them from being easily taken down by enemy air forces. That is it for the guide on all the types of infantry. If you found this guide useful, please consider subscribing and liking the video for more comprehensive guides and tips.